Hello, action takers. This is the Live Blissed Out podcast, and I'm your host, Marissa Houston, helping achieve bliss through awareness and action. Thanks for joining me. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional advice. Here's our listener spotlight. Amanda B. in Denver, Colorado says that she is loving this podcast. She says it's perfect for while making coffee and folding laundry in the mornings. I'm so glad you're enjoying the episodes, Amanda. Thanks for taking the time to share your feedback and for subscribing, listening, and sharing. This is episode 17. Our topic is posture and back pain, and my guest is Stasia Humphreys. Stasia is owner and corrective exercise therapist at Pain Free Clinic of Denver. She helps people move better, feel better, and heal from pain, injury, and postpartum issues by finding and addressing root issues in their body. She is a certified postural specialist through the Egoscue Institute, a Foundation Training Instructor, and a MUTU Pro. For more information about her services, visit her website at painfreedenver.com. To download your free back pain exercises, visit bit.ly/pain-free desk exercises. Hi, Stasia. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Marissa. It's super exciting to be part of this Live Blissed Out podcast.
I'm happy to have you. Today, we're going to talk about how to get rid of back pain, especially for those who've tried just about everything and they can't seem to feel better. You know, I read somewhere that the most common medical problem is back pain. About 8 to 10 people are affected by it. And I'm wondering, why do you think back pain is something that people have to deal with?
You know, I really think that it has a lot to do with the way we live our lives right now. If you look really in first world type countries where so many of the jobs are desk jobs, that we're sitting all day, we're leaning forward, looking at our phone, looking at our computer, it's taken us from a movement-based culture to a sitting culture. And I know that that has a lot to do with it because it changes how our pelvis, our hips work. It changes where our shoulders and head sit in relation to where they should sit. And that in the long run over years can cause aches and pains and difficulties.
So are you saying that lack of movement might be a factor?
Lack of movement can be a factor, and you can have movement that is constantly not done correctly, like a dysfunctional movement, or you have a dysfunction, so you have a compensation type of movement where that causes a problem. You know, if you have a sit desk, you're sitting all day, that could be a problem. But some people get a standing desk, but their posture still isn't good. Their alignment is still not good. And so they can stand all day, but they can still run into problems because of the position of their body standing as well as sitting.
Got it. So improper posture as well. So even if they feel like they are moving, if they're not moving the way they should, then that also can cause the pain.
Correct.
Wow, that's very interesting. So I'd like to know more about how you got into this. What makes you so passionate about helping people with their posture?
Well, that's a great question. So I was skiing in Vail with a friend, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and there was new snow, and we had just up and down the mountain all day. Last run of the day, as it often happens, I fell and tore my ACL, MCL, LCL, and ended up having to have surgery and PT to fix that knee. And the surgery went great, and the PT was great, and that knee moved well and sounded better than my other knee, which is still a bit crunchy. And the last day in the doctor's office, so I'd been through surgery and PT, and he said, "Your range of motion is great. Have a nice life." And I stretched my arms up over my head, and something strained in the right side of my mid to upper back. You know, that thing where it hurts to turn your head from left to right.
Wow, yeah.
And I'd had that before in my life, but it would go away in 5 or 6 days. So this time it did not go away in 5 or 6 days. And in fact, I ended up with 2.5 years of chronic, debilitating pain. You know, I went from being an athletic person to I didn't do anything exercise-wise, and it hurt to even wipe down a countertop. And I did 2.5 years. In that 2.5 years, spent a ton of time and money on anything and everything that promised to help me. And all of those things, most would give me a couple hours or a couple days of relief, and then everything would come back. And thankfully, a neighbor loaned me a book called Pain Free by Pete Egoscue. I started doing the exercises in the book and felt surprisingly better. And then I did something wrong and went back to square one and ended up spending 12 weeks driving to a clinic. And I ended up probably in that 12 weeks time about 70% better. So much so that I thought people need to know about this and I want to practice it. I want to help other people achieve what I achieved. And within a year's time, just continuing to do the work, I was probably like 95% better. I got into it just to help other people get out of pain that they've tried everything and they can't feel better. Then they still have a ton of pain.
Yes. And the thing is, when we experience the pain ourselves and are going through the process, we realize that there are gaps. Like, we know that people help with different things and there are experts out there, but we also are able to identify gaps in what we've experienced. And then, like you said, wait a minute, not only do people need to know about this, there might be a better, easier, more effective way for people to get long-term results that are going to be very relieving for them, considering what they've been through.
Correct. Yes.
And so then what do you feel are some of the most common postural issues that result in pain?
Well, if we go back to our lifestyle, if you have your phone and you're looking at your phone in front of you and texting, usually your head is slumped forward. And there's a lot of memes and different things online you can look at called text head. And so it pulls your shoulders forward and it pulls your head forward. And that kind of closes up the chest a little bit. So everything in the front is very shortened and tight. And that was pulling on the muscles in really from my neck down to my mid back, because those were trying to hold my head in a place my head wasn't supposed to be. And the other part of sitting a long time can oftentimes result in very tight hip flexor muscles, which can pull the pelvis one way or the other and cause a lot of pain in the low back. So you can have pain from, a forward head can cause neck pain, shoulder pain. Rounded shoulders can obviously cause those same pains, and even things like carpal tunnel, which can be from rounded head, forward shoulder. And sitting at a desk and looking at our computer all the time, all of those things are going to play into this a little bit. Or then you have somebody that's at a desk all week, and then on the weekend, they're like, I'm going to go play basketball. I'm going to go run. I'm going to go do all the things that my body doesn't do during the week. And then they get injured. And then a lot of times you see the blame being put on, for example, me, my skiing trip. Well, when I read Pete's book and I read the knee chapter, it said, if you ski and you fall this way and this happens to your knee, look at your hips. One hip probably sits higher than the other hip. And I went and looked at my hips and I thought, wow, he doesn't know me, but he just described why I tore my knee. So it really does have a lot to do with what we do with our bodies all day, every day.
Oh, absolutely agree. And I come from a generation where we didn't have computers and we didn't have cell phones. And I noticed the difference. Our daily habit is to check our phones, look down at our phones. When I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the phone, sometimes I just feel my head feeling heavier and heavier. And it's an experience that I never had growing up because it wasn't anything that I ever had to do. And so I think that even today with the young kids being trained at a very early age to rely on their cell phones and look at them. And then on top of which we spend most of our days with a laptop on our desk looking at the computer, all of that combined can really do some damage to our necks and posture in general, correct?
Well, think about this. That's a great point you bring up, Marissa, because the average head weighs around 10 pounds. But for every inch that the head sits forward of the shoulders, you add 10 more pounds to your neck and upper back. So think about if I said, hey, strap this watermelon around your neck and carry it around for a day. Your neck would hurt, your shoulders would hurt, your back would hurt. So when our head just constantly sits way out in front of our shoulders, the wrong muscles are being short and tight and unused, other muscles are compensating, you're going to have back pain, whether it is in the neck or the mid back or low back, as a result of that.
Yes, and I also noticed that we can be mindful of our posture, but what I find is that it doesn't last long. You know how like you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to try and sit straight. I'm going to keep my shoulders back. I'm going to keep my neck lined up or whatever as I'm typing. And then pretty soon you just start to get comfortable again and you start to slouch again. And then you start feeling the adjustments happening and you don't really know how to get back there again because you're constantly having to remind your body where to go to be in that perfect posture state that will prevent that weight and that feeling of heaviness when you're working.
Right. Mindfulness is important, but it's probably 20% at best of having good posture because we get busy. As soon as I'm on a phone call and then I'm also at the same time looking at my email and then I'm trying to think about good posture, the posture is the first to go. The phone call is probably the second to go because I'm reading what's in front of me. And multitasking is to a small degree a myth to where I can do all three of those things very well at the same time. So your muscles move your bones. And if your head is sitting forward constantly, and then you pull it back and you think about it momentarily, and then you get back into what you're reading, get back into what you're doing, or even having an interesting conversation that pulls you towards the person you're talking with, bam, you're out of good alignment. So you need to train the muscles to do what they're supposed to do, to hold the bones in the right position, to hold the head where it's supposed to be, so that, yes, I can be on my computer, but the muscles are doing what they're supposed to do and holding a more correct alignment, a correct posture.
So let's say that we found the sweet spot. We're aligned. How long can we expect to feel that way before we have to realign ourselves? Because I suppose that with all the movement that we make, it doesn't last indefinitely, and we need to consistently keep ourselves in alignment. So what does that look like?
Well, that's a great question. I can't give you a time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour. But what I can say is this: if you give your body corrective exercise each day, okay, so say, for example, I have my own, what we call a menu of exercises. So if I do those every day in the morning, I go into the day with better alignment. And as I work through the day, if every now and then, like I'll give my clients little bits of movement, say, okay, every couple hours, get up, or even every hour, get up and do these two things. It'll take you less than 2 minutes, but it's going to remind your body where your head, shoulders, hips, everything should be so that you can continue to work. I also am certified in foundation training, and Eric Goodman has a great video of a sitting decompression and what he has you do with your legs and then your breath to kind of decompress the spine, and do that every so often throughout the day is extremely helpful, just to give your body a little reminder of where it should be. So instead of 8 hours of forward head, rounded shoulders, you're giving it little breaks in the day that are short and sweet and totally doable so that you feel better at the end of the day.
So it's almost like when you stretch your legs or stretch your arms or just move around instead of being in your chair indefinitely for hours at a time. It's that same concept, but you're doing it more for your posture.
Yes.
And so then what are some things that we can share with our listeners who currently are dealing with some chronic back pain?
Well, I would say a few things. Number one, what was most helpful to me was getting a postural evaluation. And a postural evaluation is we have a conversation about what hurts, what symptoms do you have, and then we take some pictures of your posture, your alignment. We do a few functional tests to see if what we see in the pictures holds true when you're moving or doing a certain type of exercise or stretch. I think that most of my clients would say that evaluation was so enlightening, because all of a sudden you look and you see, gosh, this is why I always have low back pain, because this is out of alignment. This is pulling forward, or this is pulling up. So I'd say first things first, get a postural alignment. And I can do those in person for people in the Denver area, but it's easy to do online as well via Zoom, FaceTime, something along those lines.
Wow.
Number two, check out painfreedenver.com. Take a look at the methods we practice. I'm a certified Egoscue posture therapist. I am a certified Foundation Training Instructor. I'm a certified MUTU Pro. And all of those things are designed to help people realign their body through fairly easy, non-taxing exercise. And when all three of these things, we are addressing the body as a unit, the whole body, rather than saying, oh, your shoulder hurts, let's work on your shoulder. So I'm going to just share a really quick story from a client the other day who came in and had been having extreme calf and hamstring cramping for a number of months. Muscle relaxers, painkillers, and x-rays and things like that weren't showing anything majorly wrong. And they were considering maybe a surgery. They were considering just an ongoing lifestyle of painkillers and muscle relaxers. And he came in and we did kind of a mix up of different types of corrective exercise, and left here saying, okay, I feel a little better. We'll see how it goes tonight, because he cramps at night. Emailed me the next day, said, I did not have any cramping last night. Getting the right muscles, doing the right things sometimes is overnight change. And I've had other clients, it takes 6 months to a year where they're feeling little bits of improvement, but it takes time. how many years did it take the body to get out of whack? Okay, it's going to usually take some time to get it back into alignment.
Absolutely. And I think that applies to everything, right? We're so used to instant gratification and we forget how long it took us to get to that point. And now we want to undo it, and we want to undo it in a day. And it does take time, and it does take dedication. And so, what is something that you can share right now with our listeners that they can do right away that might help them practice these tips that you were sharing with us so that they can start to get comfortable with their posture?
I would say go on to my website. So go to painfreedenver.com. And there's a blog, which I will give you the link for, that talks about back pain and gives you an exercise called static back. And this is probably most of my clients' favorite exercises. And I will describe it, but going online to see the picture and get the instructions is typically more helpful. You're going to take your legs, you're going to lay on your back, okay? And you're going to put both legs up over a chair, a block, something that gets you in 90 degrees from foot to knee and knee to hip. My hamstrings, the backs of my legs are right up against this block, or like even a short coffee table. And then my arms are resting out to the sides with my palms up. There's a multitude of things happening here. My hips are able to relax because gravity is helping everything just settle down towards the floor. My back is in extension, right? It's hard for me to have a forward head unless I'm really stuck or very kyphotic with a rounded upper back. It starts to open up my chest because my hands are out to the sides with my palms facing up, and my head ideally is resting on the ground. And laying in that position for anywhere from 5 to even up to 20 minutes is extremely helpful to let the body just open up and relax. Now, I will say, if somebody has severe kyphosis and their head won't get to the ground, then they should put a pillow or something under their head to let it rest in that position. I don't want to cause aches and pains trying to get rid of aches and pains, and sometimes it's a slower process than going head straight down to the ground. The other thing I'm going to add to that is, in that position, they want to do some diaphragmatic breathing, and that's not belly breathing. What I'm talking about is a nice deep inhale where you're feeling expansion into the ribs, left to right, front to back, rather than a shallow kind of a chest breath or just only a deep belly breath where you're not getting rib expansion, followed by a long, slow, but full exhale. So you're giving the diaphragm a little bit of exercise. You're giving the rib cage a little bit of exercise. Static back is probably my client's favorite exercise. And it doesn't feel like exercise.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like you're just relieving pressure and just relaxing the body.
Yes.
And of course, it's important to note that listeners need to always consult with their doctor before doing any exercises, and that this is not medical advice. However, this is a wonderful resource for them to look at so they can get a sense of what you were describing.
Yes, that's exactly right. This is definitely not a medical advice. I am definitely not a doctor, but I know from not only my experience, but that of my clients, that corrective exercise can be extremely helpful in changing how you feel and move. And it's important. Think of a car with misaligned tires.
Yes.
Then the tires wear out very quickly.
Oh, yes. I learned that the hard way. I had no idea. I had to get my tires replaced, and then I didn't know that you had to align your tires at the same time and keep those aligned, and I didn't. And then the warranty for the tires were not applicable because you're supposed to keep your tires aligned. And so I learned that quickly. And now I realize how important it is to do that, to maintain your tires. And I would imagine that's a great example to share in terms of our bodies. Everything works together. And as human beings, we need to have everything functioning in alignment so that we all feel good and our body and our skeleton just needs to be in that right position.
Yes, I meant to give you that link, that one thing that will help them right now. So they would go to bit.ly, which is bit.ly/, and then the rest of this is all one word, pain-free desk exercises, all lowercase, and they can from there download a set of free exercises. So it's not just one, it's a couple that will have a very positive impact on their posture, or typically I should say reduce their pain.
And Stasia, if they would like to reach out to you directly to ask you any questions or consult with you, what website should they access for that?
painfreedenver.com. There's a ton of information there on about what I do, why I do it, a lot of results, pictures, how I've been able to help clients, testimonials from clients, more information on the methods I practice and why they work, and the ability to contact me to talk or set up an appointment.
That's fantastic because, again, this podcast is about helping people achieve bliss through awareness and action. And that is exactly what we talked about today. First of all, we need to help people become aware of their posture and understand why they're feeling the way they are, some factors that might affect the way they stand or feel throughout the day. And then the other piece is doing something about it, learning about it, and taking action so that you can live without that pain. If it's possible, at least you know there are resources out there that you can reach out to get the information that you need to get to that goal. Because we know a lot of people have been dealing with this for years and just put it off because they don't really know what to do. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is share with them some ideas and insights on options that are available.
Exactly. Awareness, that's your postural evaluation, and action, that's your corrective exercise menu that you do every day, and it helps you to change, feel better, move better, look better. It really does all of those things.
Thank you so much, Stasia, for sharing everything with us today. We really appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you, Marissa. It was great being here. I love your podcast, and it has definitely helped me. So I will continue to be an avid listener.
Thank you, Stasia. I appreciate you. What's your best practice for keeping your posture aligned? Send us a tweet at LBO Podcast. Thanks for listening, and thanks to Stasia Humphreys for being my guest. If you find value in our show, please visit liveblissedout.com to reach out, subscribe, and share on social media. This show is made possible through listeners like you. Thank you. So long for now, and remember to keep moving forward.